If your life feels out of control, it is not because you are cursed. It is because something inside you has not been commanded. You may have talent. You may have intelligence. You may have dreams that keep returning to you in the quiet hours of the night. But if your mind is scattered, your habits are weak, your decisions are delayed, and your days are ruled by emotion instead of purpose, then even the greatest dream will slowly turn into a burden. And here is the truth most people do not want to face. Your life does not become disciplined when the world becomes easier. Your life becomes disciplined when you stop waiting for the world to give you permission to become powerful. Most people are not failing because they do not know what success is. They are failing because they have never organized themselves into the kind of person success can trust. They want more money, more respect, more peace, more freedom, more strength. But their inner world is still in disorder. Their thoughts run wild. Their emotions make their decisions. Their attention is stolen by everything. Their purpose is treated like something optional. And then they wonder why their life refuses to rise. But a disorganized mind cannot create an organized destiny. A weak routine cannot build a powerful future. A man who cannot command himself will eventually be commanded by everything around him. This is where life changes, not when you find the perfect opportunity, not when someone believes in you, not when every obstacle disappears. Life changes when you finally decide that your mind, your time, your energy, your habits, your words, your environment, and your future will no longer be left to chance. Because the man who leaves his life to chance becomes a servant of circumstance. But the man who disciplines his life becomes the architect of his own fortune. There are principles that do more than inspire you. They organize you. They take the raw material of your ambition and turn it into power. They take confusion and turn it into direction. They take fear and turn it into command. They take scattered effort and turn it into achievement. And once these principles enter your life, you no longer wake up as the same person. You wake up with an aim. You move with intention. You stop begging for motivation and begin operating by purpose. You stop asking why life is so difficult and begin asking whether you have become strong enough to meet it. This is the beginning of a disciplined life. The first principle that disciplines an entire life is definite purpose. Until a man knows what he wants with burning clarity, his life remains open to invasion. Every distraction can enter. Every fear can speak. Every opinion can pull him away from himself. Every mood can become a master. He may work hard, but his effort will scatter. He may dream deeply, but his dream will not command him. He may feel ambition rising inside him, but ambition without direction becomes frustration. A definite purpose is the beginning of self-command. It is the point where a man stops living as a reaction and begins living as a decision. He no longer wakes up and asks what the day will do to him. He wakes up knowing what he intends to do with the day. His purpose becomes the center of his mental universe. Around it, his thoughts begin to arrange themselves. His habits begin to take shape. His choices begin to carry weight. His time begins to matter. Most people do not need a new life first. They need a new aim, because when the aim is weak, the discipline is weak. When the desire is vague, the effort is inconsistent. When the purpose is borrowed from other people, the sacrifice becomes unbearable. A man can endure almost anything when he knows why he is enduring it. But without purpose, even small discomfort feels like punishment. Look at the men who shaped history. Edison did not walk through thousands of failed experiments because he was entertained by failure. Ford did not continue building when others laughed because criticism felt pleasant. Lincoln did not rise again and again from defeat because defeat was easy to carry. Carnegie did not organize men, industry, steel, and vision because his road was free from pressure. These men were not moved by comfort. They were moved by a purpose stronger than comfort. Purpose gives pain a place to go. Without purpose, difficulty becomes a wall. With purpose, difficulty becomes a test of worthiness. Without purpose, criticism becomes a reason to stop. With purpose, criticism becomes noise outside the gate. Without purpose, failure becomes identity. With purpose, failure becomes information. This is why the first act of a disciplined life is not waking up early, working harder, or filling a calendar with tasks. The first act is choosing the central aim that will govern everything else. A man must ask himself with brutal honesty, what do I want badly enough to discipline myself for? What future is important enough to give up lesser pleasures? What result is worthy of my focus, my patience, my courage, my labor, and my sacrifice? What kind of man must I become in order to deserve the life I say I desire? Until these questions are answered, discipline will feel like a prison. But once the answer becomes clear, discipline becomes a pathway to freedom. The second principle is controlled thought. A man's life is not only shaped by what happens around him, it is shaped by what he permits to live within him. The outer world may present circumstances, but the inner world interprets them, magnifies them, fears them, uses them, or conquers them. Two men may face the same obstacle. One sees proof that he should quit. The other sees a demand to become stronger. The difference is not the obstacle. The difference is the thought pattern that meets it. The undisciplined mind believes every feeling. It obeys every fear. It follows every impulse. It allows doubt to sit on the throne and make decisions. It repeats old defeats until they become future expectations. It looks at temporary difficulty and calls it permanent limitation. But the disciplined mind does not accept every thought as truth. It questions, it commands, it redirects. It understands that thoughts are not harmless visitors. They are builders. They build courage or hesitation. They build strength or surrender. They build order or confusion. A thought repeated often enough becomes a belief. A belief held with emotion becomes a force. And that force begins to move the body, the voice, the choices, and the destiny of the man who carries it. This is why a man must guard the doorway of his mind as carefully as he would guard the doorway of his home. You would not allow a thief to enter your house and steal your possessions, yet many allow fear to enter the mind and steal their future. You would not invite an enemy to sit at your table and poison your food, yet many invite resentment, envy, doubt, and self-pity to sit in the mind and poison their power. Controlled thought does not mean a man never feels fear. It means fear no longer receives command. It does not mean doubt never appears. It means doubt is not allowed to write the plan. It does not mean the world becomes silent. It means the purpose becomes louder than the noise. Modern life has made this principle more important than ever. Every day, thousands of messages compete for the mind. News, entertainment, comparison, argument, images, gossip, opinions, advertisements, distractions, all fighting for attention. And attention is not a small thing. Attention is life in motion. Whatever holds your attention long enough begins to shape your imagination, your emotion, and your behavior. A man who cannot control his attention cannot control his direction. And a man who cannot control his direction cannot build a disciplined life. So the disciplined man trains his mind daily. He feeds it with purpose before the world feeds it with noise. He speaks to himself with authority before fear speaks to him with weakness. He chooses what he reads, what he watches, what he repeats, what he believes, and what he allows to influence his emotional state. This is not about pretending life is easy. It is about refusing to make life harder by filling the mind with thoughts that weaken the soul. The third principle is faith strengthened through repetition. Faith is one of the most misunderstood forces in achievement. Many think faith means waiting for something good to happen. But true faith is active. It is disciplined. It is the repeated mental acceptance of the result you intend to create, even while your present circumstances have not yet caught up with your vision. Every great achievement requires a season where the dream exists only in the unseen. Before the business is built, it must be seen in the mind. Before the fortune is created, it must be accepted as possible. Before the habit is mastered, the identity must be rehearsed. Before the world recognizes a man, he must recognize the power within himself. Faith is the bridge between desire and action. A man without faith may have a purpose, but he will abandon it when the road becomes dark. A man without faith may make a plan, but he will throw it away at the first defeat. A man without faith may speak of greatness, but secretly expect failure. And what a man secretly expects often commands him more powerfully than what he publicly desires. This is why repetition matters. The mind does not always accept a new belief the first time it hears it. A man who has spent years thinking in limitation cannot always become powerful in a single morning. He must return to the truth again and again. He must impress the desired image upon the mind until it becomes familiar. He must repeat his purpose until it becomes emotional. He must speak strength until strength begins to answer. He must visualize the future until the present no longer feels like his final address. This is how a man begins to recondition himself. Not through empty words, but through words filled with intention. Not through fantasy, but through mental rehearsal connected to action. Not through wishing, but through commanding the mind to become an ally instead of an enemy. And once purpose, thought, and faith begin working together, the fourth principle becomes unavoidable: decision. Decision is the dividing line between the dreamer and the builder. Many men think they are waiting for the right time, but in truth they are waiting for courage. They say they need more information, more confidence, more support, more certainty, more signs from the world. But life rarely gives certainty before movement. Certainty often comes after a man has stepped forward with a firm mind and refused to turn back at the first appearance of resistance. The undecided man is never truly standing still. He is moving backward without noticing it. Every delayed decision has a cost. Every postponed choice sends a message to the mind. Every time a man knows what he should do and refuses to do it, he weakens the authority of his own will. He teaches himself that fear can negotiate with purpose. He teaches his habits that they do not need to obey. He teaches opportunity that he is not ready to receive it. A disciplined life requires a man to become swift in decision and slow in abandonment. This does not mean acting recklessly. It does not mean rushing blindly into every desire. It means that once a purpose is clear, once the mind has been directed, once faith has been strengthened, a man must stop living in endless preparation. Preparation is noble when it leads to action, but preparation becomes cowardice when it becomes a hiding place. There are people who spend years preparing for the life they never begin. They study success, discuss success, watch success, admire success, envy success, and imagine success. But when the moment comes to decide, they retreat into another question, another excuse, another delay, another search for perfect conditions. They do not realize that the habit of delay becomes a chain around the will. Decision cuts the chain. It says, this is the direction. This is the standard. This is the work. This is the sacrifice. This is the man I am becoming, and I will no longer ask fear for permission. When Henry Ford made decisions, he was not free from criticism. When Edison continued his experiments, he was not free from failure. When Lincoln stood through opposition, defeat, and heartbreak, he was not free from doubt surrounding him. But the strength of a decided mind is that it does not allow the outside world to vote on its destiny. A man who has decided carries a different atmosphere. His words become fewer but stronger. His actions become simpler but more consistent. His time becomes more protected. His habits begin to align. He no longer feels the need to explain his purpose to everyone because he understands that explanation is not achievement. The world is persuaded less by what you announce and more by what you become through repeated action. The fifth principle is organized planning. Purpose gives direction. Thought gives command. Faith gives emotional power. Decision starts the movement. But organized planning gives the movement structure. A dream without a plan is energy without a channel. It may feel powerful, but it will not travel far. It will rise in emotion and disappear in confusion. A man can have burning desire, but if he does not organize that desire into definite steps, definite hours, definite actions, and definite standards, his desire will eventually become frustration. The disciplined man does not merely say, "I want success." He asks, "What must be done today? What skill must be improved? What habit must be removed? What person must be contacted? What system must be built? What weakness must be corrected? What action, repeated long enough, will make this purpose unavoidable?" A plan turns invisible ambition into visible movement. But a plan must not become a prison. This is where many men lose themselves. They make a plan, then worship the plan more than the purpose. When the plan fails, they think the dream has failed. But failure of a plan is not failure of a purpose. It is only feedback. It is information. It is the world saying, "This method is not enough. Adjust, learn, return stronger." A disciplined life is not rigid in method. It is firm in purpose and flexible in strategy. The river reaches the sea not because it moves in a perfectly straight line, but because it continues moving with one destination. It bends around stone. It carves through earth. It changes shape without changing aim. So must the man who seeks to discipline his life. He must plan with seriousness, act with intensity, and adapt without surrendering the purpose that commands him. Modern life rewards those who can organize themselves. Talent is no longer enough. Desire is no longer enough. Information is everywhere, but organized execution is rare. Many people know what they should do. Few arrange their life so that doing it becomes inevitable. They leave their environment full of temptation, their schedule full of emptiness, their phone full of distraction, their mind full of noise, and then they wonder why discipline feels impossible. But discipline becomes easier when the plan removes unnecessary battles. If a man wants to strengthen his body, he does not wait each morning to decide whether discipline matters. He prepares the conditions. He chooses the hour. He removes the excuses. He creates a system that makes the right action simpler than the wrong one. If a man wants to build wealth, he does not merely hope for money. He studies value. He improves skill. He controls waste. He invests time before expecting return. He creates order where there was once impulse. A plan is a promise made visible. And every day a man follows that plan, he becomes more trustworthy to himself. This is one of the greatest hidden rewards of discipline. The world may not applaud immediately. The results may not appear overnight. The money may not arrive quickly. The respect may not come at first. But something deeper begins to happen. A man begins to believe himself again. He says he will wake up, and he wakes up. He says he will work, and he works. He says he will learn, and he learns. He says he will continue, and he continues. Slowly, the broken relationship between desire and action begins to heal. The man who once doubted himself begins to feel a quiet authority rising inside him, not because life has become easy, but because he has stopped betraying his own commands. And this leads to the sixth principle, persistence. Persistence is the discipline of remaining faithful after emotion has disappeared. Anyone can begin when the heart is full of fire. Anyone can speak boldly when the vision feels near. Anyone can believe when the first signs are encouraging. But the true test of a man is not what he does when inspiration is loud. The true test is what he does when the room becomes quiet, when the results are delayed, when criticism grows sharper, when the plan breaks, when the world seems indifferent, and when the old self returns whispering, "This is too hard, go back to comfort." Persistence is where desire proves whether it is real. A weak desire negotiates with difficulty. A burning desire uses difficulty as fuel. A weak desire disappears when applause is absent. A burning desire continues in silence. A weak desire asks, "How long will this take?" A burning desire asks, "What must I become to finish what I started?" Most men do not fail because defeat was final. They fail because they accepted defeat too early. There is a great difference between being stopped and deciding to stop. Life may delay you. It may test you. It may humble you. It may take away your first plan, your first opportunity, your first confidence, and your first expectation. But none of these things has the power to permanently defeat a man until he gives them that authority. Persistence is not stubborn blindness. It is intelligent refusal to surrender the purpose. The persistent man learns, he adjusts, he studies the failure without worshiping it, he listens to correction without losing his identity. He changes the method, improves the skill, strengthens the plan, seeks better counsel, rises earlier, works deeper, thinks clearer, and returns again. He does not pretend that obstacles are imaginary. He simply refuses to make them superior to his definite purpose. Every great achievement has a hidden season where nothing seems to be happening. The seed beneath the earth does not look successful. It is buried in darkness. It is pressed by weight. It receives no applause. No one walking above it can see the silent force gathering within. But beneath the surface, life is organizing itself. Roots are forming. Strength is growing. The invisible is preparing to become visible. So it is with a disciplined man. There are seasons when your work will seem unseen, your effort will seem unrewarded, your progress will seem too slow, your sacrifice will seem misunderstood. But if the purpose is definite, if the thought is controlled, if faith is repeated, if decision has been made, and if the plan is being adjusted with intelligence, then persistence becomes the force that carries you across the distance between beginning and achievement. This is why a man must never measure his future only by today's evidence. Today may show you struggle, but struggle is not prophecy. Today may show you lack, but lack is not identity. Today may show you delay, but delay is not denial. Today may show you weakness, but weakness is not final unless you stop training strength. The disciplined man understands that every repetition is a vote for the future. Every time he chooses work over excuse, he votes for strength. Every time he chooses focus over distraction, he votes for mastery. Every time he chooses courage over fear, he votes for freedom. Every time he rises after falling, he votes for the man he is determined to become. And one day, those votes become character. Character becomes habit. Habit becomes destiny. This is how a man organizes his life from the inside out. But no man becomes great by mind alone, while living in an environment that constantly weakens him. No purpose remains strong when surrounded by voices that mock it. No discipline remains steady when a man keeps feeding the habits, people, places, and influences that pull him backward. This is why the seventh principle is environment and the power of the master mind. A man must be careful where he plants his ambition. Even the strongest seed will struggle in poisoned soil. A dream can be alive inside you, but if your environment is full of doubt, disorder, laziness, jealousy, distraction, and small thinking, that dream will have to fight battles it was never meant to fight every hour of the day. The people around you are not neutral. They either expand your vision or shrink it. They either sharpen your standards or weaken them. They either call forth the greater man within you or keep reminding you of the weaker man you used to be. Their language becomes part of your thinking. Their habits become part of your atmosphere. Their fears become invitations to lower your own expectations. This does not mean you must hate those who do not understand your purpose. It means you must stop giving authority to those who have no vision for your future. There are people you may love, but you cannot let them lead your mind. There are voices you may respect, but you cannot let them decide your destiny. There are crowds you may have belonged to, but you cannot carry them into the life you are trying to build. The mastermind is more than friendship. It is the deliberate association of minds united by growth, purpose, excellence, faith, and constructive ambition. It is the recognition that human beings multiply one another's force. One mind may have vision, another may have knowledge, another may have courage, another may have experience, another may have discipline. When these forces come together in harmony, they create a power greater than any single mind could produce alone. A disciplined man seeks association that lifts his standards. He does not merely ask, "Do I enjoy these people?" He asks, "What do I become around them? Do I think higher? Do I act stronger? Do I speak with more courage? Do I honor my purpose more deeply? Do they remind me of my excuses, or do they remind me of my power?" Your environment is shaping you even when you are not paying attention. The room you work in shapes you. The voices you hear shape you. The books you read shape you. The conversations you tolerate shape you. The habits you normalize shape you. The people you admire shape you. The examples you keep before your eyes shape the level of life you believe is possible. This is why a disciplined life requires deliberate association. A man must surround his purpose with protection. He must build a world that reminds him who he is becoming. He must choose influences that strengthen his mind instead of scattering it. He must create order not only in his schedule, but in his atmosphere, because the mind is impressionable. It absorbs, it imitates, it repeats. And if a man lives too long among disorder, disorder begins to feel natural. But when he enters an environment of purpose, something inside him awakens. When he spends time around disciplined people, his excuses begin to sound weaker. When he hears the language of builders, creators, leaders, thinkers, and achievers, his own language begins to rise. When he sees others acting with courage, his courage is challenged. When he witnesses persistence, his own persistence is strengthened. When he is surrounded by people who expect more from life, he begins to expect more from himself. No man rises alone in a vacuum. Even the greatest individual achievement is touched by the minds, lessons, examples, warnings, and encouragement of others. Carnegie understood men. Edison worked with organized intelligence. Ford gathered capable minds around his vision. Greatness is rarely the work of isolation. It is the work of a definite mind joined with the right forces. But there is another environment a man must master before all others, the environment inside himself. Because even if he walks into a room full of powerful people, he will not benefit if his own inner world remains weak, jealous, fearful, distracted, and closed. The mastermind begins outside, but it must be welcomed inside. A disciplined man does not merely seek better company. He becomes better company. He becomes the kind of person whose presence adds strength, clarity, courage, and purpose to others. This is where the 7 principles unite. A definite purpose gives the life direction. Controlled thought guards the mind from weakness. Faith through repetition gives emotional power to the vision. Decision cuts through delay and commands movement. Organized planning turns desire into practical action. Persistence carries the man through defeat, silence, and delay. Environment and the master mind multiply his power and protect his growth. But these principles are not meant to be admired from a distance. They are meant to be lived until they become part of the blood. They are meant to enter the morning, the workday, the private hour, the difficult conversation, the moment of temptation, the moment of fatigue, the moment when no one is watching, and the old self tries to return. That is where discipline is born, not on the stage, not in applause, not in the image a man presents to the world. Discipline is born in the silent decisions, in the small acts repeated when comfort is calling, in the choice to return to the purpose when distraction offers escape, in the courage to control the thought before the thought controls the life, in the willingness to act before certainty has arrived, in the humility to adjust the plan without abandoning the dream, in the strength to persist when results are still invisible, in the wisdom to choose the right influences before the wrong ones choose him. A man does not discipline his entire life in one dramatic moment. He disciplines it by taking command of one thought, then 1 hour, then one habit, then one decision, then one plan, then one association, then one day, and day by day, the scattered life begins to gather itself. The weak places begin to strengthen. The confused places begin to clear. The wasted energy begins to return. The old excuses begin to lose their voice. The man who once felt ruled by circumstance begins to feel the rising authority of self-command. And when a man commands himself, the world begins to meet a different version of him. He no longer walks like a man asking permission. He no longer speaks like a man defeated in advance. He no longer treats his purpose like a fragile hope. He carries it like a responsibility. He understands that his future is not something waiting in the distance. His future is being assembled by what he repeatedly thinks, chooses, tolerates, practices, and protects today. This is the truth that changes everything. Your life is not waiting for more time. Your life is waiting for more command. Your dream is not waiting for perfect conditions. Your dream is waiting for a disciplined mind strong enough to hold it. Your future is not hidden from you. It is being built by you. And the moment you accept that, something inside you must change. You can no longer live carelessly and call it bad luck. You can no longer surrender your attention and call it destiny. You can no longer delay the decision and wonder why nothing moves. You can no longer surround yourself with weakness and expect strength to appear. You can no longer speak of a great life while refusing the discipline that a great life demands. Because success is not attracted to disorder. Power is not trusted to the undisciplined. Fortune does not remain in the hands of a man who cannot govern himself. If you want your life to rise, then your mind must rise first. If you want your future to obey a higher vision, your daily actions must obey a higher standard. If you want to become more than you have been, you must stop protecting the habits that keep you less than you could be. There is a version of you that no longer lives in confusion. There is a version of you that wakes with purpose, thinks with power, acts with decision, plans with intelligence, persists with courage, and surrounds himself with forces that strengthen his destiny. That version is not found by accident. It is created by discipline. And discipline is not the enemy of freedom. Discipline is the price of freedom. It is the bridge between the life you imagine and the life you are capable of building. It is the force that takes your desire out of the clouds and places it into your hands. It is the command that tells fear to step aside, tells distraction to be silent, tells weakness it no longer has authority, and tells destiny that you have finally arrived as a builder, not a beggar. So gather your life, gather your mind, gather your time, gather your energy, gather your purpose. Stop living scattered. Stop feeding doubt. Stop waiting for permission. Stop asking the world to become easier before you become stronger. Choose the aim, command the thought, strengthen the faith, make the decision, build the plan, persist through the storm, protect your environment. And then move as if your life is no longer an accident, because it is not. It is your responsibility. It is your creation. It is your field, your workshop, your battlefield, your temple, your opportunity. And if you discipline it, if you organize it, if you command it with purpose and faith and persistence, the same life that once felt like chaos can become the instrument of your success. Not someday. Not when the world changes, but from the moment you decide that you will no longer be ruled by anything beneath the future you were born to build.